While. Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog, and we've got an incredible show for you today. This is the Dawg Pound. Oh, Jennifer, I still need some music. Okay. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, today I've got an all-star cast. I mean, these are some of the movers and shakers and thinkers in the industry. I've got some really high-powered guest panelists on the show today. We might even get Tony Rehn before it's over with. But starting out with Geno Walsh from the Qvale group. Say hello, Geno.
How we doing? Pleasure to be here on the Alpha Dog post Thanksgiving. So I got a couple of those that stuffing weight in there. So
Yeah, looks like you porked up a little bit. Yeah, it sure does. Okay, how's everything with Qvale?
Everything's great. You know, we've re-strategized. We had a couple buy sells that went through, and we're plotting our next move, so to speak, which will definitely involve a lot of cultural change for sure.
A lot of cultural change, and that's the subject today. And this is a very great story. This man's been in the car business for 28 years, and I met him 28 years ago. So Chris Baker from Betten Baker, one of the most fastest growing dealership chains in the country. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that is a wild story. You were in Grand Rapids, Michigan when I met you. You were a weightlifter. I was a weightlifter. We had a lot in common. I was training in the dealership, and you were a green pea salesman.
Yeah, it's at Berger Chevrolet back in '94, selling used cars, and that's where we first met. I've been following your story the whole time.
That's amazing. I tell people I taught this man everything he knows.
That's right. Take your credit.
And from A to Z Sync, one of my new friends, Brian Alee. Brian, how you doing?
What's happening, Jim? Glad to be here.
You know, I was ready to send a lynch mob after this guy about 6 months ago. And
I remember.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot, Jim.
Yeah. Every time I see him, I just picture, remember the movie Frankenstein when the monster was running up the hill and the villagers were chasing him with torches? That's
Yeah.
Brian Alee.
That's me. It's me. I'll take the pitchfork from you, though.
Another one of my great friends, one of the movers, thinkers, shakers in the industry from the Ferman group, a dynamic group. When you talk about culture change, this is one of the poster boys for culture change, Brad Wise. Hello, Brad.
Hello, Jim, and hello, panel. It's glad to be here on the last day of the month, and I couldn't pass up an opportunity to be on Jim's show, so hopefully I can add to the show and learn some things as well.
You're here to teach and learn, I'll tell you. And direct from the Kremlin. Not actually. You're in New York today. One of the foremost reinsurance experts and compliance experts in the country, my good friend, Max Zanan. Hello, Max.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you for being here. You got 4 books published. They can buy them on Amazon.
Yes, sir.
The book you wrote that I love the best is called Crazy Shit That Car People Do. Glad you're here, Max.
Thank you.
And one of the most brilliant executive managers, men or women. I've been saying one of the most brilliant women in the car business, but it's actually one of the most brilliant persons in the car business. How's that for?
Well, it's funny because I always just tell everybody I'm just an old car guy. So
Yeah.
I'm just here to sell cars. You call me whatever you want.
Okay, you're consulting 30, 40 dealerships at the highest level. Jennifer Briggs, glad you're here.
Good to be here. Hey, Tony. Glad you made it.
Hi, Jennifer.
Evergreen Chevrolet. How you doing out there in the Pacific Northwest, Tony?
Yeah, it's time for rain. We're ready.
Oh, is it really?
Oh.
How's the Ford business these days?
Well, Ford is actually Ford is we have Evergreen Ford, we have Lincoln, we have Chevrolet. Ford is We're getting plenty of Broncos and Mach-E's to sell, but that's about 75% of our business. So it's pretty.
How's
pretty
the F-150 market doing for you?
It's been soft.
Silverado.
Both sides of the street. Well, Silverado, you can't really get anything with any equipment. F-150, we're getting a little bit, but they're the trucks have been a little bit soft up here. It's been all Bronco, day and night.
Fantastic. Well, we're here to talk about cultural change. Everybody talks about cultural change. Every time I go to Automotive News, every time I go on LinkedIn or any of the social media, there's Brian Benstock, there's Brian Kramer, there's any number of thinkers in the industry talking about cultural change. What does cultural change mean to you, Geno, and how have you implemented it?
Well, I mean, it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I think the first thing is dealing with adversity. And I think everybody on this panel has dealt with adversity quite a bit over the last 18 to 20 months. The good thing about car people, we're like cockroaches. We don't go away. We find our way, we survive, and then we thrive. And I don't mean to be disparaging the cockroaches. So, but it's the truth that when the adversity hit us during the pandemic, you had to lean on some of your cultural norms, right? Like you had to lean on what we call like our 7 commitments, which is, number 1 is to have the right attitude. Number 2 is to be of service to team members and clients. Number 3 is to have a goal for an individual and for the team. Number 4 is apply innovation. Number 5 is to be productive. Number 6 is to hold yourself accountable. And number 7 is have willingness, right? And we live in that world. And when you live in that world constantly, regardless of what adversity comes down your way, whether it's lack of inventory, whether it's, a pandemic, shutdowns, fires, power outages, we can all lean back into that culture and we can hold ourselves accountable going forward. I remember last year during 2020, Brian knows this pretty well. He was helping us at our California store. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There is, the uprising events that occurred last year. We had fires, we had blackouts, and the only way you get through that and continue to sell is by stopping and leaning back into your culture, right? And so getting there is a lot of work, right? You got to get the right people on the bus. But then once you got it going on, you need to lean into any of that adversity. And you'd have people call you and say, hey, listen, there's a major riot going on down the road. We don't have Wi-Fi and we have intermittent blackouts. What do you want me to do? Should we just shut the store down? And I'd be like, look at the 7 commitments. One of them is to be productive and the other one supply innovation. Another one is to have willingness. And I said, we use iPads, use your phone, sync up to your phone with an iPad, open the doors up. We're not going to stop. Whatever happens, whatever comes our way, we'll find a way to get through that adversity and turn it into a positive rather than a negative. And that's what
so the 7 commitments are your culture.
Yeah, they are our culture is what we allow. Like on a day-to-day basis, you're resetting your culture. So if you're allowing, your service advisor or somebody in your service department not to follow the process, then that's your new culture that you just set.
Oh,
if you're
exactly.
allowing your team to not go through the process, that's a new culture that you're setting. And
Let me
part
let Chris
of
Baker jump in on
yeah,
this.
go for it.
Chris, what does culture mean to you? Now I'm going to get back to Geno because Geno's got a wealth of knowledge. But what does it mean to you, Chris?
Well, it starts at the top. Well, obviously, it starts with me. Starts with our leadership team, and I wake up the same every single day. It's you go to the gym, you get in the trenches, and you try and motivate as many people as you possibly can. And I don't watch politics, and I don't care about the weather and all the things that are going on around me. I just play the cards I'm dealt, and I try to instill that in our people. They wake up with a morning message. They get midday messages, afternoon messages. I think one thing that we did really good was we took all of our general managers and enrolled them in the NADA Dealer Academy. and that's virtual now. So that started in the spring. So every Wednesday night they meet from 6 to 9 as a team with, I think, 20 other dealers on there. And I think it just starts with every leader in the store. You got to wake up every day, walk in and carry the flag for the store. And
Fabulous.
if anyone's seen me on social media or wherever you've seen me, I mean, my job is to add value to people. And like being on this group, I normally don't do these things. I take a back seat and have everybody else do it. But everyone I interact with, I want to walk away and have them say, man, that guy motivated me. And if I do that, they do that, and it trickles down into the whole company. So my deal is motivation. I'm a first-gen car guy. I wasn't supposed to make it. So I think I have a different outlook than most people do. And I just love selling cars, love making people happy. And we wake up for two things: sell vehicles and service vehicles. And, you know, our lots aren't packed, but, you know, their wallets are, because we're getting more growth. So just play the cards you dealt and have fun. Put a smile on your face and go for it.
I can't, Chris, when I first,
Geno gave a speech.
You know, when I first met you, Chris, I generally don't learn a new salesperson's name until they've been there 90 days, you know. But
Right.
but you were a weightlifter. I was a weightlifter. You were you were a bodybuilder more than a power. I was a power lifter, but we had so much in common. And I saw the intensity, and
Yeah.
I'm still hearing that intensity in your operation. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, but I'm holding back a little bit because I don't want to scare anyone. I was listening to a few of you guys before this, and a couple of you said you played sports. I mean, this to me is a big sport, right? I mean, there's blocking and tackling and training, and you know, you got to pump the people up around you, and we got to get on the field to get every day and play together. And I just look at it as a sport, and be a great teammate, and you got to have a great coach, and it starts with a coach. So
let me see what Tony Rehn's got to say about all that.
Well,
Tony.
I'm just listening to Chris, and you know, there's some really, really good stuff with what he's saying. You know, our sports analogies are something car guys are famous for, and I'm a big baseball guy, and I'm wearing baseballism stuff all the time, and I'm shopping for baseball stuff. But really, it's all about, for us, it's about the statistics and what we changed. I mean, everybody's got their horror stories about what happened in the last year and a half, and it's just gotten better and better and better because we've adapted like car people always do. I mean, we've adapted to gas lines, we've adapted to 20% interest rates, and maybe Jim and I are the only ones old enough to know that, but we've been there, and you know, car guys adapt. So what we're adapting to now is everything is intensity. For us, it's in digital intensity. We're on 3 right-hand turns on a dead-end road, and there's nobody driving by looking at the yellow Corvette, even though they're out here. So it's all online intensity, and that starts with me. I mean, when we came out.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Online intensity. Okay, there's a shift in culture.
Oh, absolutely. It's a shift in culture. I mean, we know every single lead that comes in. I know what car it's on. We all get text messages immediately. Doesn't matter if it's midnight.
Wait. Rehn, Tony, I've known you for about 6-7 years now. You're too old to participate and to understand technology.
Yeah, I may not understand it. I was about wringing my kid's neck to get on this thing today. So I may not understand how it's all built. But one thing I do know is who to talk to in our organization to get me the information. I want to know every used car lead every night. I want to know what recon status every used car is in every minute of the day.
I hope everybody's listening to the leadership we're hearing here, guys.
I physically appraise every car, and I physically take 10 pictures of every car on appraisal the way I want them to appear on our website at the right angles, from the back seat showing the sunroof. I mean, these are physically things we do. Since coming out of COVID, and we only have, 18 new cars to sell and 60 used cars to sell. What I think all of you guys already know is that each lead is worth about 5 times more than what it was worth 2 years ago. So
as far as advertising and budget,
if I get a lead on a 16 Suburban, I know that gross on that deal is 5 times more than it was 2 years ago. If I get a lead on a new Corvette, I know it's 5 times more than it was 2 years ago or more. And so those leads are so critical. Your response time, your quality of response, your video response, your product knowledge, knowing not your knowledge of the car, but exactly what cars you have and where they're at on incoming, when they're coming, when the next Suburban's coming, when the next 2 LT Corvette's coming. I mean,
my God, you're intense.
It's got to come from me. It can't come from the guy over in the corner that has got 8 deals out, right? It's got to come from me. So I got rid of all the sales. I don't have any sales managers. I sit up at the front desk and I kind of orchestrate the whole thing. So the A to Z guys I've talked to Chip Perry 3 or 4 times. And when I do that, I get a lot of input from all his guys, and I've been hiding from them a little bit because I'm also pretty conservative in regards to spending. So I don't spend a whole bunch right now because
you're a tightwad. I've done business with you. Hey, Tony, you're a tightwad. I've done business with you.
I don't need to spend a whole bunch to sell 80 cars, Jim. Me and my 2 boys can do that, right? So I don't need a whole bunch of help here, right? I just need to gather the data quickly and respond with a quality response in 3, 4, 5 minutes or less.
Hey,
So
would you
would you
move this again?
Because last time Tony was here with us, he had shared that they were making a major change and moving to a 15 to 20 minute time in store.
Yeah, we try to do it under 15. We do videos of the customers when we get it under 15, but you get an occasional up in, so that takes a little bit longer. But for the most part, all of our deals are worked online. I have what were once my 2 top salespeople, then my 2 top F&I people. Really, they're doing everything online with the customer. We're penciling deals online. We're A/B penciling online, protected, unprotected. Our deal average everyone's deal average has gone up, so that's no big surprise. But our F&I average has not dipped. In fact, we've gone up about 400 a copy this year. We do a lot of DocuSign, probably 70% DocuSign.
Wow,
and when people come in for delivery, that's what it is a delivery. So when inventory is so scarce and we're in a high dollar neighborhood, so we're looking for $85,000 Suburbans if we can find them. So they're sold when they get here, and it's just a delivery process. And these guys value their time more than they do anything else. And we know that dealerships nationwide, that the reason we lose any deals to these clown disruptors is because we have broken processes that people don't like. So,
I love it. Hang on to that thought a second. I want to get Brad Wise on for a second.
Hi, Brad.
Okay. Brad, culture change. The whole Ferman organization, how long has Ferman been in business?
126 years.
Wow. Has it changed? Has the culture changed?
Well, the core values of the company, I don't think have changed.
No, always integrity.
Integrity and compliance. And the one thing that I feel coming to this organization is how special they treat us. I've been around the block. I've been doing this 35 years, and I've worked at some great stores, but nothing compares to the way our leadership culture treats all of they're very gracious, very humble, and they treat us very special. So I feel blessed to be in this organization and proud of the fact that they've been able to stay in business for 126 years, weathering depressions, wars, pandemic, 9/11. I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty incredible. So there's a lot of pride that exists in our organization for sure.
Let me jump on that subject a second. Now, what has changed in the way that you are embracing customers? What has changed? What's new?
Well, I mean, when you said this meeting was about culture, I wrote down 5 or 6 different things, and to me, none of it's new. I mean, you as a person who's traveled throughout the country, maybe the world, and went into a store, you could feel the culture the minute you walk in the showroom, just from the looking into the eyes of the people and getting a feeling for a showroom. You know what a showroom that's electric feels like.
Absolutely.
Or a place that's negative, or a place that's dead. You Jim, of anybody that knows that. And I've had the fortunate ability to work at only 3 stores, but all 3 were different, and some underperforming, some dysfunctional, some, different. But it's the most important thing that a leader can bring to an organization is the culture. And when you asked me to talk about culture today, I just wrote down a couple of really fast things. Is that we really emphasize a culture of thoroughbreds. We're always trying to recruit the very best people. I'm just a firm believer that the best people are able to do things that mediocre people can't do, whether it be overcome objections, whether it be make the highest gross or sell the most cars or provide the best level of service. So really job one is to hire very, very, very talented people.
Brad, I've always said to hire the best people and pay them too much.
Absolutely.
That's always been when I was a top manager, that was always my philosophy. And, I was in some rock and roll dealerships, and I've consulted some rock and roll dealerships, and always trying to persuade the dealer, overpay your people. Don't be changing their pay plans, constantly. The best people.
In our particular case, it's only half the story, because some talented people have deficiencies, culture deficiencies, ethical deficiencies. So they have to really fit a certain criteria to work here. And some people just are bewildered that we don't allow that, or we don't do that, from a standpoint of, we're really big on encouragement, development, support, culture of learning. Our managers need to be the type of managers that are getting into the hearts and minds of their people and developing them and changing their lives. Instead of a bullfrog that sits at the sales tower and barks orders all day and has that condescending tone that that hasn't learned anything or cracked a book or listened to a podcast. That's not going to fly here. And I'm long on desire and experience. I'm on desire and less on experience. So in our culture, we focus on progress, not perfection. Not too long ago, I tried to be perfect at everything, and that's just a recipe for stress. If you ask yourself, are you a better dealership than you were the month before? And that's progress, and progress definitely equals happiness. And we have a saying here. It's called "Nothing bad happens here." I stole that from a mentor of mine from California, and his name is Mike Qvale. He's a BMW dealer out there, and I stole that moniker from him. Nothing bad happens here. So, nothing bad happens here can be fall under all sorts of different circumstances, whether it be a finance manager berating a salesperson for bringing them a cash deal, or any other unethical things that happen between one another. Because working 12, 14 hours a day, we want it to be fun. We want it to be uplifting. We want to play music in the showroom. We want to encourage people.
What kind of music are you playing in the showroom, Brad?
Well, very, very non-political kind of music. You know what I'm saying? Me being the old guy, I have to ask him to turn it down every once in a while. But it is fun walking into our showroom where you can see that the people are having fun, and especially right now with the money.
Let me stop a second. We did a poll here recently. The most effective music in a showroom. What affects customers more than anything? What type of music? 1970s disco.
No way. No
yes,
way.
Yes,
no
yes.
Way. It's the 80s music, man.
It's the golden
80s.
I think that's going to
disco.
progress. I bet that study came out 10 years ago, and now it is 80s music.
No, it's 80s music, because you can't play 90s music because you don't know what's going to show up next in that song. You can get some bad lyrics going on.
I'm with Geno. I agree with Geno.
I remember when we used to listen to Louie to try to make out the bad word. Now you can find it. I'm gonna put Brian Alee up front and center for a second. Okay, now this is a guy. You talk about culture change. What do you do, Brian? Tell me about A to Z sync. Now you're gonna replace the sales manager, the F&I manager. You're not going to totally eliminate them, but you're going to put them behind the scenes. Salespeople are going to work the deal A to Z. How does that culture change work?
So before we get controversial, Jim, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my thoughts on culture. The first thing I think of is from Peter Drucker, and Peter Drucker says culture eats processed for breakfast, right? So, I've worked in the dealership retail world for about 15 years before I switched over to the dark side on the vendor side here a couple of years ago. And, we had a way of doing things in the Schomp organization. And it doesn't mean it was the right way of doing things, but, there's a Schomp way. Over the last couple of years, I've learned that there's a lot of different ways to approach the business, culture, and your people. And I would say if I were to reflect on the last 2 years, we've worked with a lot of big dealer groups, big names in the industry. I've worked with Geno Walsh and the Qvale organization. I can identify with a lot of what Brad said earlier. And I think that culture comes right down to the vision from the top, but execution from the mid-range and the bottom of the org chart. So
wait, say that again, Brian, one more time, so everybody is paying attention to that.
Yeah. So the culture change comes from leadership vision, but the actual execution comes from mid-level managers and the folks that report to them. Right. So I do believe, and it's not really a belief, I've seen some breakthrough practices from some really big players in this industry. And typically it's they give up control to gain control. And what I mean by that is they empower their people. Right? You got to hire the right people, to your point earlier, Jim, and somebody else mentioned on the panel. Hire the right people and then get out of the way. Right. But we have to guide them and give them vision on what we expect. And then we have to measure their behaviors that are driving the performances that we expect.
How much resistance are you getting to culture change?
I'm sorry, Jim, can you say that again?
I say, how much resistance are you getting to culture change?
All the resistance, right? The only thing that's constant is change in this business and every other business. But yeah, we do something a little bit different as a vendor. We'll do what we call a readiness assessment. And the most important piece to that is spending time with the people. Taking 20, 30 minutes, and we interview salespeople, we interview management, we interview the executive management. And by interview, I mean, what's going well for the dealership right now? Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's take what's going well. Let's mitigate some of the, the weaknesses that we can work on together collaboratively. And let's just raise our own internal bar 5 or 10%, 5 or 10% in PVR, 5 or 10% in employee retention, 5 or 10% in customer experience. And all of a sudden you don't have incremental changes, you have exponential changes by a couple different buckets. So anyway, getting back to the topic, I believe that culture is exactly what we empower our people to do, and then guide them along the way.
So I want to follow up on that point, because I think we talk a lot, and we have a lot of fantastic operators that come on the show, and we talk about that culture being top down and it being a decision that we make as leaders in an organization. But oftentimes I feel like for people watching, we've skipped a step, right? How is it that you get there? If you've made that decision as a leader and you want, or as so much is happening right now with acquisition, right? You're bringing new folks into the fold. So we talk about that top down vision. And I love what Chris had said earlier, the culture starts with the coach. But what I think is interesting about what Brian is doing now, because their product is a whole culture change shift, correct? I've not seen a full demo, but from what I understand of the product, it's a whole culture change shift. So when somebody makes that type of decision, what are the steps that they have to do to execute? And I wanted Brian to repeat that, because it's a vision from the top, but it has to be executed by your team, by your leadership and management team. And if everyone is not on the same page, the success rates are really limited. So I think that's something that I'd love it for everybody to kind of talk about. If you were with your organization at the last major shift and culture change, share with the audience some things that you've struggled with. Or
I'm going to jump in here a second. It's going to require constant and ongoing training. And that's one thing that so many dealerships lack. And I'm going to get back to Chris Baker in a minute, because I got a question I want to ask him. But constant and ongoing training, not just when I got in the car business, what Chris is flashing there, 47 years ago, I walked in a car dealership and they trained me. They put me in a room with a bunch of Jackie B. Cooper tapes and said, "Don't come out
Hey,
to your
Jim,
train."
you know what we call it? We call it cash. If you want the cash, you got to have the cash, which is commitment, attitude, skills, and habits. And the only way you're going to get your skills and habits is through constant training.
Constant training. Yeah, the point I'm making here, Geno, is they put me in a room with a bunch of Jackie B. Cooper tapes and said, "Don't come out till you're trained." And I never was trained again. You know,
Jim, I'll take that. I
who
want to
will?
talk. I want to talk about training in a minute.
Okay, who's talking there? Is that
Chris. Chris, I
Okay,
can't.
Chris.
No,
I
he's
can't
ready
sit
now.
still. I can't sit still. I got to talk. I'm a dealer,
He's
right?
ready.
So,
Okay. Yeah, Chris, one thing I want to ask you is, as
Yeah.
you get into your rant here,
I'm
want
going to
ask
get
you,
into it.
okay, you got 23 dealerships,
Yeah.
give or take. Do you have standard processes and standard culture in your stores?
Yes, we do. But I got to go on training a minute. So here's the deal. Everyone in our company gets these at a new hire. I came up with it. It's a right now bracelet. It's got a brand on it. So every new hire gets it. And I pass it. I got thousands of them in my car. I give them to everybody. So really, it's about living right now. It's no procrastination, no hesitation. Do everything in your life right now. And I think you got to train your people. And where that came to me was my partner is IA. So we had to do some training. So they came in for a 4-day training, trained all of our salespeople in the whole company, 4 days. We had it in different locations. And I got into that meeting. In the first meeting, I went to every single one of those meetings, participated more in that sales training than anybody in the room. And they gave me a lot of accolades for it. And it was pretty fun. And hopefully they're watching it right now. But they said they've never in the history of their training had a dealer participate in the sales training with their company. And I'll just say that was probably, in my 28 years doing this, that was probably the best week of my entire life. It was better than buying stores, anything I have ever done, being with our salespeople for 4 straight days, going through the steps of the sale, teaching our culture. I just, there's not even words to describe how it meant to me to be with our salespeople. And that was our best culture thing I think we've ever done in the company. Now we're doing our sales managers next week, and I'll be front and center every single minute of that training. And I think that's what we forget. Like we say, hey, go do your training. The dealers in the store better participate in that, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, it was the funnest thing in my life. So hope that I got you excited.
So being there with the leaders, instilling leadership, coaching one-on-one versus training. I just saw that a minute ago.
Yeah, jump in your training.
You standardize the processes in all your dealerships.
Yes, we're getting better every day.
Are you one price or negotiating? Are you one price or negotiating stores?
Negotiating.
Very good.
Negotiate.
Hey, Jim, real quick on the training end of it, all of our general managers at our stores have to be able to do everybody else's jobs.
I love it. Love it.
So a general manager can take a customer through our sales process because it's a single point of contact sales process, and can take them through the SRP down to the VDP, select the vehicle, use the Darwin Create My Deal button, take them through, do the interview, do the menu presentation, do the final acceptance. They have to know that in order for them to be able to hold other people accountable.
Wait a second, Geno. You're telling me, I heard somebody say, do the Darwin. Did you say that?
Yeah, so we use Darwin. It doesn't matter what you use, whether it's A to Z.
What I'm getting at is
Roadster.
part of your culture now embraces digital retailing.
Absolutely, 100%. But it's more like an omni-channel than it is digital retailing, because it's just a place to start. We're not finishing. I mean, 1% of all customers are finishing online. We're finishing in the store or at their house. We call it, it's part of the Qvale way, which is we meet you there, whether it's online to offline or anywhere in between. We're going to meet you where you want to be met, the customer, and that's part of, having the right attitude and being a service to your team members and your clients, which is part of our commitments, right? But more importantly is that I don't want to have team members, including general managers, who are just telling people what to do and can't actually show them how to do it. Right? Our service manager and our service process is the same way. Max actually called me the other day, telling me about his unsavory experience. I got him on the phone with my.
Wait a second. Wait a minute. Max. You called Geno personally?
This was yesterday, actually.
What is the problem?
So listen, guys, I'm gonna burst some bubbles here.
You're gonna burst some bubbles? No.
Yeah, because
Damn
this is like
Russian.
an echo
Russian.
chamber. This is like the progressive dealer Olympics. Where everybody's trying to show how much more progressive they are than the next guy. But the reality is that 95% of dealers are not like you guys. They're not. And this is good for you. Believe me, at the end of the day, you will win, the war. You might lose a few battles, but you will win the war. But the reality is that 95% of dealers are exactly the same dealers that they were before the pandemic, that they were in the 90s and in the 80s, right? There is no process. I called Geno because I took my Audi for the first oil change to a very reputable Audi dealer in the state of New Jersey. Happens to be, I'm not going to name names to protect the guilty.
You called Geno to complain about other dealer. Okay.
Not even to complain, but to vent and show him how other people lack this culture, right? Nobody walked out to greet me. Nobody did a walk around. Nobody tried to sell me anything.
And you couldn't find anybody to bitch at, so you called Geno.
So I called Geno because Geno has an Audi store, and I just wanted to compare the experience that, I would have gotten in his dealership versus the experience that I was actually getting. And
so like when Max called me, I said, "Hey Max, did they come out with an iPad and do a vehicle check-in? Did they walk around the car for you? Did they send you a technician video? Did they tell you, what was right, not right, what needs to be fixed and addressed immediately? Did they go over any of your options? Did they ask you any questions?" I kind of described our service.
Is that part of the Qvale way?
That's part of the Qvale way. That's our transparent service process.
But there's also a lot of those things are requirements from Audi also, because we have an Audi store too. And those are things part of the new initiative where we have to do certain things like that.
Right. So none of those things were done, right? Nobody tried to buy my car, even though they had 0 new cars in stock. Right? They're completely sold out. They're on
what are you driving, Max?
Wait, Max. Nobody tried to buy it.
2021 Audi A6 Avant with.
Nobody tried to buy your car.
No,
I'll buy it. How much you want for it? Let's go.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that, there was no attempt made to appraise it, to give me an offer, to upsell me anything, or to send me a video from a technician. None of that was done, right? So you think I'll ever be going back to that dealership for service or to purchase a car? No. Right? But that dealership is a reflection of what's really going on. And in addition to that, there is another culture that's being developed in real time. It's the culture of cracking people over the head. Because a $10,000 deal is the new $2,000 deal. Right? So you're developing a culture of just completely price gouging, and people have a long-term memory, right? They will remember what was.
Then they should remember how much more they got for their trade too. I don't like the word price gouging. Like it is market based.
Not everybody has a trade-in.
Right. So understandably, so what you're saying to me is,
but Jennifer, they're not holding on the trades either.
What?
They're not holding on the trades either.
Oh, he said if they don't have a trade.
Yeah, no, but even if they have a trade, they're holding on the trade. If they're asking for 20 grand over sticker, they're going to hold.
No, for sure. But he's not saying over sticker, Geno. What he said is a 10-pounder is the new 2-pounder.
Anybody jump in? Anybody jump in right now? It's a free for all.
I thought this was about culture.
That's what I was going to say. We're going down the rabbit hole on.
Well, yeah, Max threw out the PG thing, and that triggered.
Where are we going, Max?
Listen, I'm saying that culture is important, and you guys, are the champions. There's no question about it. And I wish everybody was like Geno, and everybody was like Brett and Chris and Kramer and Ben Stuck, but they're not.
Tony, are you like that?
I'm still here, buddy.
Okay, well,
we
would
started.
that have happened at your store? Would that have happened at your store?
Say that again, Jim.
Would Max's situation have happened at your store?
No, I don't think so. But I'm kind of with Jennifer on this in regards to market pricing. I went 38 years of my career with nobody wanting to pay MSRP because the cars wouldn't bring that and weren't worth that. But now that there's no cars and all of a sudden they're bringing over MSRP, that's a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to put siding on my house. I can't buy that. I'm trying to buy a dishwasher. I can't buy that. So I don't know what's different. The rent here hasn't changed. The rent factor's the same. I have 18 cars to sell instead of 400. Market pricing is market pricing. If you're not on the market, that's what we all have tools to determine what the market is. And if you're on the market, you're on the market. I don't buy into the price gouging thing either. And there is a smaller delta, obviously, with trades. Not everybody has a trade, but they didn't come in here on the bus. I'll tell you that. So,
well, and I think maybe what Max means is that the old school dealers, the ones that are not progressive, are maybe going to be exacerbating their already bad culture. Maybe not that everybody just adjusting to conditions is a bad thing.
Okay, well, Jennifer's apologizing for Max.
Oh no, that was a sideways quote, not an apology.
Hey, Jim. One last thing when it comes to culture. One of the things I learned at Evergreen when I first got here in '99 was one team, one Evergreen. You talk about those blue bracelets. Ours were green that said one team, one Evergreen. And because we had stores fighting across the street and we're fighting over used cars because we shared used cars.
A constant reminder, it goes back to what would Jesus do? The same type of bracelet recognition that you look at it every day, right?
But I mean, it's one team, and we have lunches with our techs on the showroom floor once a month. We have birthday parties for every employee once a month. And, I know this is all old time stuff, but that is culture. And that's putting everybody together. We don't have walls between service and sales. I mean, our best friends are in service, and our best friends are the techs, and they buy all their cars from us, and we service all our cars with them. It's not a who shot John deal. So that's the real culture. And that's got to go on in every store. That's just ABCs. And I know everybody in this panel knows that, but maybe not everybody watching.
Wait a minute, Tony, you're talking about a total dealership culture. You said something about the techs love the salespeople and the salespeople love the techs. I've never seen that. Because every day at 5 o'clock in most dealerships, there's a pickup truck in back of the dealership with a cooler of beer in it. And the techs all go out there at 5 o'clock and drink that cooler of beer and bitch about the sales department.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
I do remember that clearly, but that was a long time ago. We had a Folgers can with a slot for the 2 quarters for the Miller Highlight too. That was a long time ago.
I don't know how long ago that was. I've seen it recently.
That was 1980 for me.
Hey, Brad, let me jump you in here a second. Brad, first of all, would Max's situation have happened at Ferman?
That specific, no, it wouldn't have happened that way. And I can't remember who, I think it was it Tony or Max? No, Max was saying about 95% of the dealers out there don't get it. I don't know if it's that high, but it is really high. It isn't that hard to stand out at a car dealership. And that's the great thing about the auto industry.
That's right.
It's easy, but it's easy to stand out when you know that you're dealing with you're dealing with inefficient organizations and bad cultures that have good people in them, and trying to find those people who are in those bad cultures and bring them into a good culture that thrives. We don't do everything right. And just yesterday, I was just smiling from ear to ear, thinking about how much money I earned this year, but at the same time, how much more room for improvement there really is. And it just lends itself to how great the car business really is. I mean, any given day, I could list just as long as the things that we're great at, the things that we can improve on, and that's really, the quest for improvement has got to be at the top of the mind of any culture, and injecting that hope for gain with your employees to know that you can be working at Chick-fil-A today and make $100,000 in 6 months in the car business, because I've got dozens of them that are doing that, and they're actually crying when they get their paychecks. So there's nothing more fulfilling as a leader to really feel that and create an environment where they can progress and thrive like that. There's not too many industries out there where you can go in and change people's lives. And
that's huge.
And if you want to be a manager, if there's any salespeople out there, and if you want to be a manager for the wrong reasons, which is to boss people around and have manager on your business card and make all this money that you think you're going to make, that's the wrong reason. The right reason is to change people's lives. And the car business is the perfect vehicle to do that, because it doesn't care about the color of your skin, your background. It doesn't care about your age. It doesn't care about anything. All it cares about is the effort you put forth. In our situation, we have a lot of immigrants, and they do a fantastic job. And, they see the opportunity that's in front of them, and they know that if it is to be, it's up to me. And, everybody likes to dog on America and this, that, and the other thing, but it's still the place that people are dying to get into this country, because the American dream is still alive. And with hard work and a lot of learning, because as somebody I know used to say all the time, is that we don't have a knowing problem, we have a doing problem.
Who said that?
That was you.
It sure was.
And when I had those same Jackie Cooper tapes as well, and there wasn't any information. Now you can YouTube anything. One day my wife was out of town, and I had to find out how to make pancakes for my daughter. Well, it wasn't that hard to find a 3-minute video on how to make the world's greatest pancakes. But most people aren't gonna, take the action required, like Max said, to learn a new skill, because this is just a learned skill selling.
Brad, I used to tell employees all the time, hey, this business doesn't care who you are. If you're black, white, Hispanic, you're male, female, doesn't care. It'll pay you exactly what you're worth. And if you don't make the kind of money you think you should make, you need to be worth more. And you need to find a way to be worth more. And I'm going to put that on to Brian Alee a second. Okay, Brian, you're changing the culture. I'm going to ask everybody in the room, what dealerships are one price and which dealerships are negotiating? Anybody here one price?
We have one store that's one price. The rest are
Fantastic.
negotiation.
Geno, are all your stores
we have
same process?
We have upfront price, which we call velocity intelligence price, but we do not do one price. There is negotiation.
There is negotiation. Okay. What are you teaching? What are you teaching the salespeople, Brian? Are you doing different cultures in different dealerships? How are you doing that?
Yeah, there's a saying in the automotive space, and that's we meet the client where they're at. But we try and meet dealers where they're at, right? So we're profit and price agnostic when it comes to helping dealers achieve, growth. So whether you're one price or, you have, you're the best wheeling, dealing, negotiating store in the country, it doesn't really matter. If I have a dealer that says I want to go one price, to help folks out, you have to kind of flip the narrative, and that is everybody on this panel and every dealer in the country, they're averaging one profit, right? If you look back 90 days, 6 months, a year, we average $300 a copy in front on new. We average 500 or 1,000 on used. Over time, you're really already one price. You're one profit on average. So, we do help dealers wherever they are, whether they want to go one person full bore, or if they want to phase it in and have like Brian Benstock at Paragon in Queens, New York. Talk about a buzz and energy and doing things.
Now, are you working with Brian?
Right. You talk about walking in, the place is turned on. That place is turned on.
Are you working with Brian
What's
Benstock?
that?
Are you working with Brian Benstock?
We are. We're helping him out with his Acura store in New York. So, for instance, Brian took an A/B test inside the four walls of his own store. What not a better way to measure if something's working or not, right? I can tell you all day long that there's 10 dealers that are doing a great job, and here are their numbers. Go with us. But the best way to do is to create an A/B test in your own store. So he took two groups. He took half of his sales staff, and he said, okay, for 90 days, let's run this one-person operation. Let's get you trained. Let's get you on the right process. And let's
so he did an A/B test.
It helps along the way. And
he
let's
did an A/B test with half and half.
Right. So he went half and half. Right. So for 90 days, he got the results from half of his staff, and they were outperforming the traditionalists, right? The traditional finance managers and the other team. So we've rolled out the rest of his store. It's a good success story. So I don't really care if you're one price, if you negotiate, if you're all one person or you're a hybrid. At the end of the day, the customer wants a better experience. They've been telling us that for decades. So we do our best to just try and help dealers capitalize on what's going well and see how we can collaborate and make it better.
Well, I've been knowing Brian for about when have we known each other, Brian? About 7-8 months.
That's close to a year.
Close to a year, and
Yep.
and you guys hired me to spend a day with you here a while back.
Yeah, we went out and visited you in Atlanta to pick your brain on some finance process pieces.
Yeah, you guys, the A to Z people flew to Atlanta, and the three top executives spent a day with me, and just about F&I processes. Did that help? Did that help your process?
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you think you've got something figured out, you better go back to the drawing board, right? So we're students of the business, keep that white belt mentality. And yeah, Jim, I mean, you gave us some word tracks. There are some things that have worked really well for a long time that probably shouldn't go away. There's some things that are working that are new and fresh, that are progressive, that we can blend into some of those sort of old way of doing things. So yeah, you gave us some word tracks, Jim, that helped us in our F&I efforts. And
see, that's one thing I'd like to say. That's one thing I'd like to say, Brian, is, you know, I teach F&I. I've done hundreds of F&I schools, and F&I is the worst I have ever seen it in the dealerships today. You talk about culture. F&I managers don't know their job. I mean, they don't know the basic objection overcomers. They don't know the basic things about.
They don't even know how to read a bureau. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
They don't know their products. They don't know why their products are valuable. You'd be amazed. And Brian, I felt that day we spent together with the A to Z people and you talking about word tracks.
Jim, part of that is your pay plan culture.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say.
Why is it?
Well, we built all these pay plans off of PVR and product penetration, as opposed to like selling each individual product that helps the store the best. You know, that's why when we went to single point of contact, we changed. You know, obviously we got rid of finance managers first and foremost, but secondly, we put in pay plans that help the store, whether it was sales and service, but for retention and for loyalty, and we paid appropriately towards that. So extended service contracts and wheel and tire and things that
customers. But you know, Geno, when I spent a day with the
that's what the problem is, Jim. The pay plans now, these guys, a lot of guys in finance, they're riding they need to get to the 1,700 or 1,500 or whatever the number is, and 140.
But they're doing it with rate.
I know that's all they care about, though, because that's what the pay plan set up. Like they're show a person how to
disappear. Rate can go away.
I know, but it hasn't gone away yet. It hasn't gone away yet.
Okay, well, okay.
They haven't lived through that yet.
Yeah, they haven't lived through that yet. Once they live through it, then water will find its way. But at this current moment, they're just utilizing the pay plan the best way they can.
Guys, that's my point, that the last 2 years will do so much damage to the finance department because none of these guys are selling anything. If you are naive enough to think that there's real salesmanship going on in the box, you got to wake up. I mean, the close
right there are good. Don't loop everybody in there. There's
I know, but I'm saying outside of this progressive panel, right? The standard close is this. This is where you sign if you want this car today. That's it. I highlighted it for you. This is your fully protected payment.
But I think that understanding each function in your role and treating your job as a profession actually ties right back into the culture that we're supposed to be creating and breeding that passion about what they are doing. If your team is not passionate about how they're growing their business inside of your business, that's a failure at the top.
Of course, because it all trickles down.
When I met Brad, when I met you in Tampa, I was doing an executive F&I seminar, and you brought your top executive managers in there with you. How did that affect your culture?
Actually, I actually stole a couple of your books and gave them to the ones that weren't there, so I owe you some money. But I even picked up a lot of really good closes and word tracks, because really that's what it all is. It's practicing, drilling, and rehearsing. I was having a conversation with a young F&I person the other day that it's just like a stand-up comic. If you do any interviews with or read any interviews with Jerry Seinfeld or something, they hone that. They spend weeks and months and even years honing that 45 minutes.
Customers have said nothing new in the last 47 years I've been around.
You just can't wing it. You have to, every word you say, the way your office is set up, the way someone enters the F&I office, you have to hone that skit, that 45-minute skit, to perfection. And a lot of people, because the quality of your PVR is the quality of your presentation. So
I teach F&I managers, it's not memorization, it's conversation.
Yeah, there's elements.
I see them coming out of these South Florida schools that sound like a bunch of robots.
Yeah. But I remember one of the takeaways that I got from your class was competing with credit unions. If you read the fine line of the contract on a credit union, is they can pull the loan anytime they want. They feel fit. Is that right? That was one of the takeaways that I thought was a great, just one of the great takeaways that came from that seminar, because we deal with a lot of credit unions all the time.
These people are not students of their industry. I'm talking about in a generality of all the, and when I was talking to Brian Alee, I don't care whether the salesperson or the F&I manager is presenting the finance sale. They got to know what to say. And I don't want to call it word tracks. I want to call it conversational points. Things it doesn't sound like memorization, like you're a robot. I want it to sound like conversation.
I'm talking about people who are dabbling in their job. They kind of know what they're talking about, but they really haven't read everything about the products they're selling and really know all the fine points of everything that they're selling. They kind of know. So therefore, they kind of have a good PVR. So a lot of them, in the past, I've experienced that they haven't learned much, and recently they're still doing it the way that they did it 5 or 6 years ago. So there's resources.
We got 3 minutes left, guys. Anything anybody wants to say in the last 3 minutes of this broadcast? This has been a heck of a great show, and we just
Jim, I want to say this. You can take the most unappealing business, like selling shoes, and I'm talking about Zappos, right? And instill an unbelievable culture there, a culture that nobody could compete with, including Amazon, no matter how hard they tried. And at the end of the day, Amazon was defeated and had to buy Zappos for $1 billion because of their culture and keep all the managers in place. They didn't buy the company and fire everybody, right? So I know that car dealers understand dollars and cents, and I don't think there is a better example of the value that the culture brings to your organization than Zappos' story.
That is a great story. Let me wrap this thing up. We're getting to the end. Brian Alee, when I met you 7, 8, 9 months ago, I was totally opposed to what you're doing. But right now, I see the Schomp organization. I see the Walzer organization. I see Brian Benstock. I see a lot of people using the A to Z concept successfully. Some of the Geno, Walsh, Qvale stores. So I basically am sort of a convert. I can go either direction. I'm AC/DC on how we sell cars. Does the salesperson present? Does the manager present? I don't care anymore. All I care about is that it's done properly. All I care is that it's a uniform culture in the dealership and there's expertise in the background. So
on that piece, I'll throw my 2 cents in here. Whether we're talking about the Nelson Group out of Oklahoma, Tennessee, they've got a culture of training. They have something called the Nelson University. They created a way of living in their stores, and when they're not selling, they're training. There's no downtime in that store. You have the Price Sims Group on the West Coast who has a corporate training structure. I think that to kind of round out the conversation here, when it comes to culture, I think what you train and the coaching behaviors you do with your team every single day is what's going to drive the culture, and that culture is going to drive the metrics you're looking for. So I would encourage everybody to, and anybody who's listening who's not the progressive dealer, have one-on-ones with your people, create expectations, and train the hell out of them. And I think that's a good start.
Fantastic. I love it. I'm gonna go back to Chris. Chris, you're an old friend. You're a new friend. I've just rediscovered you. You're just doing some incredible things. Give me a couple words to end the broadcast.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago at my first, I think it was a GSM 20 group when I didn't know what I didn't know. And what I learned is it's real simple. Leadership is influence. It's one word. And you can write that up there. I know Jennifer, I think you're putting that stuff up.
I've been putting a couple of those tidbits out there.
I mean, leadership is influence. You're influencing people. And in the car business, let's face it, it's all about energy, excitement, and enthusiasm. We got a bunch of adrenaline people that come into work. A lot of them don't have college educations like myself. I wasn't going to college. It wasn't my deal. And they want to come into an environment that's electric, like you said in the beginning of this meeting. I mean, I can walk into any one of my stores and I can tell you if there's electricity in it. I can also tell you on a morning text thread who's with it, who's not with it, and who's ready, because it's all about energy, excitement, and enthusiasm. So again, let's be great leaders and let's influence our people, and let's focus on the positive in everything we do, and life's pretty good. Best business in the world.
Thank you, big guy. Anyway, I can't tell you how many dealerships I've been in 1,000 showrooms, and I got to tell you, I walk in and I get what I call dead ass low energy. Everybody walking around with those damn Bart Simpson faces looking. Everybody in the dealership looks pissed off. Have you ever noticed that? Yeah, they all got this Bart Simpson faces. And and they're all pissed off. I mean, dead ass low energy. Shake it up, change the culture. This has been a great broadcast. What did you call this thing? The Progressive Olympics? Is that it, Jax?
Right.
Everybody say goodbye to the audience.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.